Hi there, this is Lerald, and today I've got a guide for the re-released Mage Tower Challenge for Protection Warrior. I put up a more in-depth guide for Brewmaster Monk as well, so if you want more of a complete dive into all the boss mechanics of this challenge, you should check that out. You can also read the written guides I've made for Wowhead on both Brewmaster Monk and Protection Warrior if you like reading. In general, I would say that this challenge is quite a lot easier than it was in Legion or Shadowlands. Part of that is definitely just that tanks are all a lot stronger baseline in Dragonflight due to the revamped talent system, but also Warrior is extremely strong right now, and that's a big part of it. The hardest part of this challenge, at least for me, was just doing enough damage to quickly end phase 1 and finish the fight. I'm pretty comfortable both with doing this challenge and with playing Prot Warrior in general, so I did two-shot the challenge this time around. My first attempt ended with me getting knocked off the platform like 4.5 minutes in, still in phase 1, so, really bad single target DPS for sure. I think I transitioned to phase 2 around the 4-minute mark on the kill, which is still very slow among tanks. Part of this is that I play Prot Warrior a bit too conservatively. It's probably my biggest issue as a Prot Warrior. I use Ignore Pain too much and don't Revenge enough. I definitely think it shows up here in how slow my DPS is in phase 1. It wasn't really as big of a problem in phase 2. Once I see that execute button light up, I tend to get a lot more aggressive, and that was definitely the case here. Phase 2 is a lot easier on a warrior than phase 1 due to Cruel's health starting super low and then him being in execute phase for most of phase 2. Also, you can spell reflect Cruel's Twisted Reflection casts, and that will put the debuff on him, which lets you heal with every auto attack against him. This completely trivializes your defensive sustain issues during phase 2. You'll still need to manage your defensive cooldowns in order to not get one shot by Cruel's Annihilate casts. You need to Demoralizing Shout the first ones, you always have Ignore Pain up, have Shield Block up to block, Shield Wall the later ones, but that's basically it. If you do that and you keep the Twisted Reflections interrupted, you're going to be topped off the whole time. Warrior is super easy to stay alive on in phase 2 of this challenge. I think the biggest difficulty of the fight really is just getting through phase 1 because there's nothing to spell reflect in phase 1. It's just long, slow, chipping away at Inquisitor Varus's health, bit by bit. One important note on all of this, though, the auto attacks from the Nether Horrors, the little guys who spawn 4 at a time from portals around the room, those do count as spellcasts because they apply the magic dot psi talents, and spell reflection will reflect 1 stack of that, which doesn't do much, but it will consume your spell reflection if you're tanking a bunch of Nether Horrors while Cruel is casting Twisted Reflection at you. So be sure to kill all those little guys first, or just interrupt him if they're up, and then you'll have to kind of approach that second phase, defenses like normal instead of, free full health the whole time. Now let's move on to gear, and I didn't really do anything all too fancy here. I didn't change my gear literally at all from how it is in my normal raid setup. I kind of wanted to go in and just see how difficult it was, and, I was a little pleasantly surprised. In terms of trinkets, I used Manic Grief Torch and Whispering Incarnate Icon. These are incredibly strong trinkets for max level raid content, but because this is a time walking challenge, they get scaled down and they're actually kind of bad. If you want a direct damage trinket, I think that a pocket-sized computation device, the BFA trinket from Mechagon with the Cyclotronic Blast card in it, is much stronger. It's also a lot easier to use. Manic Grief Torch was pretty difficult to use. You have to stand still and channel and not move, and you're not able to block and dodge and parry during that time. You can see on the kill, during phase 2, I think I held on to using it for about a full minute before I actually felt like there was a place where I could stand still and safely cast it. Unused trinkets in this encounter are fine. Wind Scar Whetstone's a good example of one where you can press button, do damage, and there's no weird interactions like there are with Manic Grief Torch. Again, the pocket-sized computation device is another good one. Those work much better. The best possible trinkets, though, are probably just chipped Soul Prism from Warlords of Draenor and Unstable Arcano Crystal from Legion. Those are both from world bosses in each of those expansions. They give way more stat budget than they should for their item level. They're basically equivalent to wearing multiple pieces of gear each. So I would recommend one or both of those if you find yourself struggling at all with this. They will significantly lower the difficulty of the challenge, but you can absolutely do this without them. On the subject of optimizing your gear and reducing the difficulty, I would recommend enchanting your boots, bracers, and cloak with speed enchants. It makes dodging knockbacks way easier. Warrior is at a pretty significant advantage over other tanks in this category anyway, since you can use Charge and Heroic Leap to get back onto the platform if you do get knocked back. But more speed is still very useful for this challenge, and you can get a huge amount through enchants, like over 10% very easily. You can also use drums and potions and fortune cookies to squeeze every bit of player power you can into your character. The ideal potion to use, and really the one that kind of stands out as being extremely over budget, is Potion of Unbridled Fury, which is another consumable from BFA. It just does a ton of single target damage, it has a very long uptime, and it's, again, just way above its stat budget. So if you find yourself lacking single target damage, popping one of those in phase 1 will definitely help a lot. Alright, this is the talent setup I ran. It's pretty close to a normal single target raid setup, but there are a few important changes. First off, I really want Stormbolt for phase 1. It's super strong for canceling Inquisitor Varys' Drain Life casts, which is very important. You can also pick up Shockwave or Intimidating Shout, those are options, but I didn't feel that I needed either of them. Stormbolt was enough to get the job done, especially when you're using Prophet Velen's Holy Ward orbs on the ground to disrupt Varys as well. Between that and Stormbolt, that was really all I needed. In the right-hand tree, you can take Show of Force and Into the Fray, which are over on the left-hand side of that right tree. That's an option, but I prefer Sudden Death just to get even more single target burst damage on priority targets, Inquisitor Varys and High Lord Cruel. I really like the defensive safety that you get out of Heavy Repercussions. Having 100% shield block uptime isn't mandatory for this or really any content, but you won't always be getting full value out of Into the Fray anyways, since ads aren't actually up all that much of the fight. Whereas the value of Heavy Repercussions is always on, and it's very high. I took Spell Block as a break glass in case of emergency button in phase 1, and it's fine for that. You could use Bolster or Tough as Nails instead, and you could take Bloodborne and drop another talent elsewhere to get even more damage. I would probably wind up dropping Impenetrable Wall if I was going to do that. And then I would just commit to having like a 90-second cooldown on Shield Wall, instead of a 45 to 50 second cooldown. It's still good either way, but this setup is a bit more defensive. It's a little safer, but it's also a little slower, and given that this fight gets more difficult the longer it lasts, I think the max damage, throw caution to the wind strategy might actually be smarter and safer for a lot of people. Warrior's strong enough to be effective with a variety of talent setups. Alright, I think that's it. I'm going to play the kill in its entirety now. Ask questions if you have any, and I haven't said it in a long time. Like and subscribe, you know the drill. And good luck with the Mage Tower. Thanks for watching. Bye.
We will never bow!
You must stand strong, champion. Do not give up.
You are all that remains. There is no hope, fools.
He is overloading himself with power. Look out!